Hey, I'm Paul from VRP Rocks, and I'm delighted to welcome back to a show a friend of the channel. He's been on here so many times, probably just as many times as I have. Welcome back, Mr. Carmine Appice.
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm very well indeed. Thank you so much. Got so much to get through, as always, because you're always a busy, busy boy. And this brand new
Yes,
Cactus album, Temple of the Blues 2. Let me just run through some things before we bring you in.
yes,
So it's out April 3rd. You can pre-order a copy now. There's CDs, there's Blue Marble Effect vinyl, there's bundles with t-shirts, all that sort of stuff. You can see a couple of the videos online now on YouTube and things like that. Check them out. But not just that, it's a roll call of guests that you've managed to get onto this record, which is just phenomenal. As always, I mean, Steve Morse,
yes,
Dee
yeah,
Snider, Pat Travers, Ted Nugent, Tony
yeah,
Franklin, Billy Sheehan, Jolyn Turner, Bob Daisley, Rudy Sarzo, Tracy Guns, Bumblefoot. I'm probably forgetting a few more as well. You must
yeah.
have one of the best contact lists in anyone's phone anywhere in the business, Carmine.
I think I do because remember in the 90s I did Guitar Shoes, which had,
Yes, yeah.
I had probably 24 different guitar players, including Steven Seagal and who was the other guy who was a golfer? I forgot his name. You know, John McEnroe. Is he a
Oh,
golfer?
it's tennis.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, tennis. Sorry. Yeah, I mean,
You can't be
that
serious.
was
You must know
amazing
that.
too. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had Brian May on it, and all these guys were in their lulls back in the 90s. Slash wasn't in Guns N' Roses. There was no Queen, Brian May, Neil Sean. There was really no Journey. All these guys that got back in their big.
Yeah.
And I released the Guitar Zeus box set like a few years ago, and I did some new videos. I got Tommy Thayer on it. You know, Tommy Thayer's on the new one too. You forgot him and Britt Lightning from Vixen.
Oh, Brett. Yeah,
And
yeah.
they even got Mike Portnoy and Nico McBrain on there, but you can't notice their drumming because we used their drumming, made effects out of it, but they did do it. But I do have a phone that has a lot of people in it, and
Yes,
they're friends of mine, you know.
absolutely.
And a lot of them were Cactus fans. That's how this started. The label said, "Can you get some guys that were influenced by Cactus?" I said, "How about influencing friends?" They said, "Yeah." So that's what it was called until I started seeing it on the blues charts, Slash and Robin Trower and Foghat. And I said, "All these guys are the same as me with Cactus. We should get on the blues chart, market it as blues." So the label said, "Let's call it Temple of Blues." I said, "Yeah, influences and friends." So that's what we called the first one. And it broke into blues charts on Billboard at number 3.
Yep.
I said, "Wow, we got something here." And Bonamassa played on Parchment Farm because Parchment Farm was so amazingly mind-blowing at the time for speed, that it blew his mind. I did his podcast and I said, "Well, we're redoing it. I'd love for you to play on it." He said, "Okay." So I had him on his own podcast saying he'd do it. So I don't think he could back down, you know. I can't get him on the phone anymore, but but he's a good guy. He was a Cactus fan. So that's how it started. So when we had success with that, the label said maybe we should do another one. I said, "Okay." He said, "But let's do less people, less tracks, because I don't want to do two, LPs, double LP. Let's do a single LP and then have a bonus track for the CD." I said, "Okay." So then it was a little, less work for me. But I thought of 3 tracks I wanted to do with Cactus. From the Cactus songs were Brother Bill. I'm sorry, not Brother Bill. Token Choking, Feel So Good, and Bad Stuff. My brain is just floating with names. And and then I said, "Well, we need to do more." I said, "Well, I want to get more into really make this a blues record and play some blues that I really like, you know." And that's where Evil came from.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
album that
Originally.
Evil came from, which is one of our biggest songs. That and Parchment Farm were probably our biggest songs, and maybe Brother Bill, but those two were really big. So I said, the Howlin' Wolf Electric album, which came from Jimmy Page to Jeff Beck to me back in the day. Listen again. So I remember loving every track on that. And I listened to it and I remembered the drummer on that, Morris Jennings, did some really interesting and really amazing drumming for me. like Evil, I copied what he did, but then I did it my own way. I figured, well, I could do it on this. I listened to the songs, and sure enough, I said, here's the other 8. I think it was 8 songs. And we did them each one by one by one. And what I did was I started every one of them just with the drums. So I arranged it with the drums by doing the click and doing my own vocal, like my own vocal did
Yep.
the riffs all the way from beginning to the end. So like on Moanin', it went from bum, 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 bum to like bum, bum, down, bum, bum, down, 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 which is blues, which is almost like Blue Murder,
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes into singing like that with that group, and then it goes into a shuffle, do that, do that. So it goes from a real, slow boom, bop, boom, the bam, bam, boom to the boom, boom, gaga, boom, boom, to doom, do da, do da. It's like 3 levels of music there, And when I do that just with the drums, and I did that all the way through the album, like in the one we did with Eric Gales, Backdoor Man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Yes.
6/8. Dun, 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 dun. At the end of that, I wanted to hear him really wail, so I stopped with and that made it up tempo. So when I gave it to him, first after I would do my part, I give it to my guitar player, Artie Dillon. He would put bass and guitar on it. And I'd send it to my singer. He would do a vocal. Now we have demos for everything. So
Mm-hmm.
when I send him the demo, we send stems, that's individual things.
Yeah.
And he would take out the guitar and the vocal, and he would play to me and Artie playing bass. So when he sent it back to me, he just did the 6/8 part. I said, what about the up-tempo part? He goes, I thought that was for you. I thought that was for drums. I said, no, man, that's for you to wail. So I sent it back to him and he wailed on it. And then we sent it to Billy Sheehan. And Billy played great. And then he started playing some of the solo with Eric, which I didn't know. I didn't even conceive that ever. So it was such a surprise to me, but it was so cool. And a lot of the songs ended up like that. I never knew what other guys were going to do to what we gave them, So it was really a lot of fun,
That does sound like fun. You're answering a lot of the questions I've already got written down here. But in terms of the songs themselves, it sounds like you picked them and then you've gone out and got people to come and guest
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the songs. I was wondering which way it
yes,
worked. So did you
yeah,
then kind of work out who you think would work best on which
yes,
track sort of thing?
yes. I'd have spreadsheets when I start. These are all the people I'd like to get on, you know. And it's like I would have got Steve Stevens on again, but he was unavailable, you know, things like that. So I had a whole list of spreadsheet with people I liked and the songs, right? I picked the songs off the Howlin' Wolf album,
Yeah.
right? And I figured they can't say this isn't a blues album when most of the album was written by Howlin' Wolf and Willie Dixon. It's a blues album, because I'd like to get a nomination for blues with the Grammys. I mean, come on. I'm getting old if I don't do it now. So anyway, that was all my thinking. And then I would call people, you know. Now, hold on one second.
Tuesday?
Yeah. Put a pause for a minute. Brian, I'm doing an interview. Could you call Leslie? Thank you. That was the mover. You know. Okay, so and then I would narrow it down. I'd call or email or text people, and they say they can't make it. Like Ty Tabor, he said, "Look, I just got off the road. I just like to relax for a while." I said, "Okay, no problem." So I would get people who gave me a no, and then some people that I knew Ted Nugent would do it because he loves playing, you know. So basically. Then I had the list of who I think would do it.
Mhm.
Then I would contact them, and then I'd get yays for everybody. And then I'd look, okay, well, what song would Ted be good on? I think he'd be good on Spoonful because that's kind of in his groove. And sure enough, when I gave it to him, then I gave it to Bob. They fit together like a glove, you know. And he gave it a new groove, which I liked. Because he did that on the last album too, you know. So that's how I would do it. I would pick it out. I gave Richie Fortix from Guns N' Roses. He said, "I'd like to give you the guitars first." I said, "Okay." So he did the guitars. I said, "The solo, I want to go up tempo." Okay, like 16 bars up tempo for the arrangement. He said, "Okay." So we did all that, and he sent it back to me. And he didn't do a couple of things. So I sent it back to him, and he sent it back to me. And I said, "Oh, that's cool." And then I put the drums on it. And then I knew Phil Susan. He's a great bass player. I'm in touch with. I said, "Phil, why don't you put bass on this?" He said, "Okay." So I sent it to him, and he did bass. So that's how it went. You know, then we got that done. I called Doug Pinnick. I said, "I would love for you to sing this song. What do you think?" I sent him the song. He goes, "Yeah, that's good." You know. And then he said, "But it's slightly in the wrong key. Can you bring it down?" So I can't remember if we got back to Richie to bring it back, or he tuned it, the guitar, and did it, or my engineer tuned it down. I can't remember how we did it. There's just so many different things, you know.
Like
And
fantasy rock band, this is incredible. The way you just pull on all these
anyway,
names.
we did it, you know, and it's just like crazy. And I had to keep the list, check this one, check that one, check this one did that one. I had a list of, you know, bass, guitar, drums, you know, obviously drums, vocal, background vocal, and then I have to check everybody off on the spreadsheet. It was 6 months of this, you know.
Incredible stuff. And a song
And
we
then,
haven't
and
touched
then
on yet as well, we did speak about before I hit record, was the brilliant Little Red Rooster with Dee Snider on there and
yes.
Tracy Guns on there. So tell me a bit about that track as well, because it is an incredible song. I mean, the
Well,
Stones and everyone else have done
I,
it, but
I was I was looking at that one. That's one of my favorites because the drum part's killer, you know. And by then I'm looking at, well, who could I get to play bass, you know, first? Okay. And I would give choices to people. Like D, I gave 2 or 3 choices. He said, I'd like to sing that one. I said, okay. So then we had the demo and he sang to it. And then I started thinking, okay, who can, there's a harmonica on there. There's a guy down in Florida named Rockin' Jake. He's tremendous, really great. I put him on 2 tracks on the record. And, you know, so where my studio is in my guest house, I have like a curtain rods that go around the whole thing. It turns the whole studio into green screen.
yes.
So not only do I record it, I do the videos there too. And I put green screen on the floors, everywhere. So we did my part there, you know, and the harmonica player did his part in my garage with another green screen. Okay. But I knew he'd do a great job on the actual record. So I got him on the record, you know, and then I didn't know who to get on guitar. And I said to Brian, who owns the label, who do you think would be good on guitar? He's like bluesy, rocky. He goes, what about Tracy Guns? I said, oh, that's a good idea. So I called Tracy and I said, you know, texted him. The first few times I didn't get an answer. So I asked Brian to get a hold of him. He got a hold of him. And then I got a hold of him. He said, yeah, I'd love to do it. So he did it, you know. And then I had my guitar player do it. There's a couple of things I really loved on the Helen Wolf record that I told we need. Like he did a wah-wah guitar on the record. I said, Artie, just give me the wah-wah guitar like that. So he did the wah-wah guitar. And then I needed a bass player. I said, no. Jimmy Haslett. I broke him into the business years ago. He played with the Yellow Jackets and Gino Vanelli, you know, fantastic bass player. As you can tell by the little solo thing at the end, you know. And he said, yeah, man, I'd love to do it. He's like one of these, anything you do, just give me a call. Like Billy Sheehan after Tim Bogert died, anything you want to do with Cactus or Vanilla Fudge, call me, you know. So I called Jimmy and he said, yeah, dude, he put a great bass part on, especially the solo, Dom and his solo, then Dom solo, then harmonica, you know, and that's how it all came together, you know, checking, okay, check,
Fantastic.
you know. You had
And
to
it's
do
got
the
a great video
demo.
as well. You have to tell me about the video because it
Yes.
looks
Oh, yeah. So the
tremendous.
video was the same thing. So my friend Randy Pratt, who did a lot of stuff, he played harmonica with Cactus, and he helped support Vanilla Fudge and Cactus. He had a lot of money. We go to Europe and he put up the money and help us, you know. So I've been watching videos he's doing. He uses this guy, and I was in a couple of them, named Dominic Esposito, has a company called DeVille Films, and he uses CGI and AI. And so I called him. I said, look, I got this track. I'd like you to do it. How much would it be? So we worked out a price. And I said, okay, this is what I'd like. You know, it's a blues thing it's written in the 20s and 30s or something. So I'd like us to be that set, playing in front of an old, decrepit, you know, house falling apart, shack in the, you know, in the fields, you know, and D maybe in an old car and maybe having a rooster on the hood as the emblem. So he said, okay, let me see what I could do. So he sends me D in the old car. I said, I couldn't get the emblem, but I got the rooster. This is what it looks like, and we'll get him roaming around. I said, okay. And I said, so what about the band? He said, well, he showed just me and the harmonica player and D in front of the shack. And I said, that looks cool. So then we gradually talked about, he said, I'd love it to be, the rooster to be a redhead woman. I said, dude, but it's a male. So maybe we can put a sign up called gender change, and you can walk in there and come out a woman. I said, yeah, I don't want to be like politics, you know, in America, the politics, gender is ridiculous. So he came up with beauty makeover. I said, that's good. So, you know, if you've seen the video, the rooster walks in there and turns into, I'm not going to say how, they turn him into a beautiful female, a redhead, but it's only temporary.
Yes.
Right? So that
Yep.
says temporary. So that was little, and I said, make that bigger. So he had the effects. I let him do what he could do, but I had the idea in my head of what it should look like, even though I have no way to do it. He did the editing and creating of it all. And then we talked over stuff. So I like co-directed it with him, you know. And then I said at the end, she's got to turn back into a rooster somehow, you know. So he said, okay. So I said, maybe, you know, the lightning from the sky or something. But I said, but when she does in the car, you got to get the expression on D like, wow, you know. And he said, okay, I don't know if I can do that, but I'll try. He got it, you know. And when she got in the car with him, he looked at her like hi, and she looked at him like hi, and they drove off, you know. So you always seen him driving around with her, you know. And the lyrics, and the dog begin to howl, and you know, and then he shows dogs, you know, and he shows their, you know, like rooster and the chicken in the stables, and you see that, you know. So he did a great job creating the lyrics,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
fantastic.
and what we wanted. And I was afraid to show it to D because D's driving the car he never drove, you know, with AI. And I'm thinking, oh, I hope D if he don't like it, what do we do then? You know? So I gave it to D and said, wow, it's effing amazing. You know? I said, great. As long as he likes it, we're safe, you know?
Kind of.
And then we showed it to the label, they all loved it, and showed it to the rest of the band, they all loved it, and showed it to different people, everybody loved it. And so then they released it. Now, I'm afraid to look at YouTube and see how many views it has. I don't know, you know. All I know is I thought we created a great video and a great record. And then April 3rd, when it comes out, we're doing a big show in the Chicago area at the Akata Theater in St. Charles, Illinois. And it's going to be Cactus All Stars presents his charity show to give money to in America's not Temple of Blues, Tunnel to Towers, and Music Cares, Music Will, and the St. Jude Hospital, you know. And it's $25 to get in. When you buy the ticket, you get a free Cactus record, you know. So we're making it a real promotion. My friend Timothy Ryan, who is involved with his family, big giant trust, that gives money away for charity. So he funded the whole thing pretty much to make it that all the ticket sales goes to the charities and plus some that we have, so we're giving the charities quite a bit of money, and we're able to do this because of his funding. And I work with him because he does spoken word. And me and my producer, co-producer Pat Regan, we create all this rock music behind his spoken word. And we brought some guests in again. We brought, I think Tommy Thayer is going to do it. Got Eric Bloom, I got Tony Franklin, you know, and that's really interesting because, so we're getting that going, but he said, yeah, I can give you money for this. That's what we do. We give away money for charities. I said, great. So he gave us the money to organize everybody, pay everybody, fly everybody in, do all that stuff, and then give money to the charities, plus have the money that people buy the ticket would go to the charities too. And then we got Doug Aldrich on that. We got Doug Pinnick on that, Tony Franklin, Billy Sheehan, Pat Travers, Bumblefoot, Rob Cottle, who sings with my Rod show. And he's great with the audience. I said, number one, you can't look like Rod Stewart. So he's going to grease his hair back. He's going to wear a hat. And I said, you got to wear regular clothes, not Rod Stewart clothes. He goes, okay. But he's singing like 3 or 4 songs on the album. And he's going to do songs on the show. But he's also going to like MC a bit because Dee was going to MC even after saying he can't sing. But then he said, I don't know if I could take it. People asking me why I can't sing. I said, you know what? I totally get it. Thank you for even, he's a good friend. I know Dee for a long time, and he's another one like Ted, he was another one like Ted. Yeah, I'll do it. He did Evil. And you know what? The first album, I got to admit, the videos really sucked. The Evil video had no storyline. I let the label do it, and it made no sense. The one way or another video was better. We had Ted in it, and we had Doug Pinnick, and the guys from Cactus. But it really, this video is really good. It's one of the best videos I've ever done.
Yeah, it is.
The only one that I think was as cool as this was on, I do this artwork with my friend Ed Heck, and we did a song called Drum City on the Appice Perdomo album. I think we talked about it. And the background for that whole thing on the green screen was all my artwork. We had the Drum City piece of, the Drum City piece of art was the background. He animated it. The cars on the Drum City video, on the Drum City painting was animated. And it was cool. I mean, if you go on YouTube, just look up Carmine Appice, Drum City, it'll come up. And we did Stonehenge, I did Drumhenged, made it drums, and pretty good, cool artwork. And that was a unique kind of video too, Yep. But that one and this one, I think, was some of the best videos I've been involved in.
Absolutely tremendous. Well, Carmine, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Just to recap all of that, Cactus, it's Temple of the Blues 2. It's the new album. It's out April 3rd. You can pre-order now. Do it so you can get CDs, blue marble vinyl. There's bundles with T-shirts, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Don't forget to check out the video as well on YouTube. It is fantastic. Little
it's
Red
called,
Rooster.
It's called Little Red Rooster featuring Dee Snider.
That's the one, and you can enjoy the Marvel for yourself. Absolute pleasure chatting with you again, Carmine. Best of luck with this one, and maybe speak to you again when you do number 3.
Yeah.